Why China dropped tariffs on almost all of Africa while America was busy raising them. In early 2025, the United States raised tariffs on nearly every major trading partner it had. While the world was reacting to that, China quietly did the opposite for Africa. 53 countries, zero tariffs, complete unilateral market access to the world's second largest economy, and the one country that did not receive this offer tells you everything about what the other 53 actually gave up. On February 14, 2026, Valentine's Day, Chinese President Xi Jinping sent a message to African leaders gathered in Addis Ababa for the 39th African Union Summit. The message was not romantic, it was strategic. From May 1st, China would remove tariffs from every African country it has diplomatic relations with. 100% of tariff lines gone. That number is 53 out of 54. Now, let us talk about what that relationship actually looks like before we celebrate it. In 2025, China and Africa traded $348 billion worth of goods. China has been Africa's largest trading partner for 16 consecutive years. That relationship grew from roughly $10 billion in the year 2000 to nearly $350 billion in 25 years. That is not a trading relationship. That is a dependency that learned to dress itself up as partnership. And yet, Africa's middle-income economies, South Africa, Morocco, Kenya, Nigeria, were still paying Chinese tariffs of between 10 and 25% on processed goods, fruits, wine, light manufactures, all taxed. Xi's announcement ended that distinction. Everyone in, no conditions, except one. The one country excluded is a small landlocked kingdom called Eswatini. You probably haven't heard of it. Beijing is counting on that. Eswatini is the only African country that still officially recognizes Taiwan. That is the only reason it was left out. China did not offer 53 countries free trade because it woke up feeling generous. It offered it because it had already collected something far more valuable: the diplomatic loyalty of an entire continent. 53 governments had already told Beijing that Taiwan does not exist as far as they're concerned. The tariff removal is the receipt for a transaction completed years ago. That is not partnership. That is a landlord dropping the rent after you've already signed the lease. The policy went live on May 1st. South Africa did not wait. In the early hours of that morning, 24 tons of South African apples cleared customs in Shenzhen, the first commercial shipment under the new zero-tariff policy. Which brings us to the number nobody wants to discuss. Africa ran a $102 billion trade deficit with China in 2025. A figure grew 64.5% in a single year. China exported $225 billion in finished goods into Africa: electronics, machinery, vehicles, solar panels. Africa sent back $123 billion, overwhelmingly crude oil, copper, cobalt, and unrefined agricultural products. Africa sells the ingredients, China sells the meal, and somehow Africa is surprised the restaurant is turning a profit. Raw commodities like oil and minerals were already entering China with minimal taxation. What faced heavy tariffs was manufactured and processed goods, the exact categories Africa does not yet produce at scale. The opportunity is real. The capacity to capture it across most of the continent is not. China is not offering Africa a way out of commodity dependency. It's offering better terms inside the same dependency, while positioning itself as the destination for whatever industrialization Africa eventually builds. Meanwhile, Washington was moving in the opposite direction. Countries that had previously benefited from AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, were suddenly facing new American tariffs and uncertainty about whether that framework would survive another policy cycle. African leaders didn't need a PhD to read that comparison. That dynamic has been building for 20 years.
When the UN General Assembly voted to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine in March 2022, only 28 African countries voted in favor, 17 abstained, 8 didn't show up. 26 nations couldn't bring themselves to condemn a military invasion of a sovereign country. That did not happen by accident. It's the return on 2 decades of Chinese investment, infrastructure, and diplomatic patience against 2 decades of Western inconsistency. Beijing doesn't lecture, it builds ports, sends ships, and waits. Now, here's what the analysts won't say out loud. Africa is not poor. The continent holds 30% of the world's mineral reserves, 60% of its uncultivated farmland, a population of 1.4 billion people, the youngest, fastest-growing labor force on Earth. Africa is sitting on the raw materials powering the electric vehicles China manufactures and the energy infrastructure the entire world is racing to build. The continent is not poor, it's poorly organized, and there's a catastrophic difference between the two. Because poverty can be eased by a generous trade deal, poor organization cannot. You can remove every tariff on Earth, and it won't matter if the cocoa farmer in Côte d'Ivoire is still selling raw beans to a foreign processor who sends back chocolate bars at 40 times the price. It won't matter if copper leaving the DRC is still crossing the border as ore instead of wire, as someone else's future instead of its own. China made a decision in the year 2000. It looked at its own resources, its own people, and its long-term interests, and it built for itself first. It protected its industries while they were young. It developed its infrastructure before opening its markets. It exported its surplus, not its foundation. 25 years later, it's handing out zero-tariff deals to an entire continent. The question Africa has to answer, not at the next summit, not in the next election cycle, but in the decisions made today about what gets built, what gets processed, and what stays, is whether this generation will be the one that stops exporting its foundation and starts building on it. No trade deal from Beijing or Washington changes what happens inside the continent. Only Africans build the roads connecting African cities. Only Africans create the processing plants that turn raw cobalt into battery components before it crosses a border. Only Africans decide that the farmland feeding China's middle class should first feed the child in the next village. South Africa moved within hours. That's a start. But Africa doesn't need more open doors into other people's markets. It needs to build a market so powerful and self-sufficient that the rest of the world lines up to enter it. The resources are there. The people are there. The intelligence is there. The only thing missing is the decision.